Good morning, India. And breaking right now for our viewers in Telangana is the full state lockdown, which has been announced by Chandrasekhar Rao till the 31st of March. The details of this lockdown are pouring in right now at our CVR English studio. Also breaking right now is the 13-hour window from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. to buy your essentials. Authorities just revealing that the state government is warning the violators of stringent action. From CVR English, live at Jubilee Hills, Tuesday, 24th March 2020. This is Good Morning India. So grab your coffee or chai. By the way, I'm going to talk about your chai a bit later in my show today. Let's get right to that first breaking news about the state lockdown. Well, how is Hyderabad faring during the lockdown which is going on right now? Telangana Chief Minister Chandrasekhar Rao has finally announced a complete 100% lockdown in the state at a press gathering held last Sunday at Pragati Bhavan in Hyderabad. According to the lockdown announcement, all offices, schools, colleges and all public places will go into a complete lockdown with immediate effect. No gathering of more than 5 people will be allowed on the roads of Hyderabad. However, essential supplies like the supply of milk packets, vegetables, hospitals and ambulance services would still be made available to the public for a comfortable and a smooth lifestyle. So you don't have to worry about your everyday supply, everyday ration of milk and veggies. However, only one person per family will be allowed to go out of their homes to fetch the groceries and other essential items. It may be noted that the Hyderabad Metro and the state-run TSRTC buses as well as the private bus services will also be shutting down with immediate effect. The state has also begun the enumeration of all the pregnant women and would be taking good care of their health and deliveries during this tough time. Friends, Telangana has moved into a complete 100% lockdown mode in the backdrop of the more versatile and the more dangerous coronavirus positive cases being reported in the state right now. With the state government also hinting, well, let me be very clear about this and I hope you're listening to this with open ears. The state government also hinting that the currently permitted 13-hour window which operates from 6 a.m. in the morning till 7 p.m. in the evening these days to buy your essential goods. Now this essential buying window, the one which you are enjoying right now, could be slashed further if the people in Hyderabad violated the lockdown conditions. So people of Hyderabad, my friends from Hyderabad, please make sure that you respect this window which has been given to you by KCR's government. Please follow the rules and regulations very strictly right now because it is a matter of your health as well as the matter of Telangana's health and eventually the matter of India's health right now. So make sure that these strict timelines and time foundations are followed very carefully and monitored very closely by each and every one of you and your family members. Let's make sure that none of us are violating these timings because if we do so and if these violations come into the notice of the state government, then mind you, and I'm warning you, please don't tell me that I did not inform you earlier. We might have further slashing down in this window which has been made available to us for buying our essential items every day. So why do you want to get your timings slashed down even further? Let's enjoy these timings which have been given to us by KCR and his government. Let's respect the timings and stick to the deadlines as strictly as possible so that we are not made to suffer due to a further slash down in the timings. Shall we? Let's make that as a promise. Let's make a promise to each other that we will strictly stick to and adhere to this timing which has been given to us from morning 7 a.m. till evening 6 p.m. or rather 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. This timing which has been allotted to us, let's make a promise to each other that we will stick to these timings like responsible citizens of Telangana. Meanwhile, speaking of Telangana, Telangana has reported 3 fresh cases of the coronavirus this Monday, taking the total number of positive cases reported in the state so far to 30. Yes, the number has risen from 27 yesterday to 30 today. Among these, 2 cases had foreign travel history and one person in Karimnagar did not have any direct foreign travel history but had moved closely with those who had flown in from Indonesia. Like we were listening to this fiasco which currently happened in Karimnagar, where we had 10 people flying in from Indonesia and all of them had tested positive for the coronavirus. Well, this third person which has now tested positive in Telangana supposedly was having a very close conversation and very close movements with this group of people which had flown in from Indonesia, and it is not surprising to find out that the same person has himself contracted the coronavirus infection now. So people, social distancing is the need of the hour. Please make sure that you are distancing yourself from the people around you as much as possible so that you can avoid contracting this virus yourself and you can avoid the chances of developing infections yourself. The idea, the need of the hour is to stay away physically as much as possible from the people around us. Now, if we zoom further into this current global health crisis, friends, I believe that it is time for us to sober up. COVID-19 respects no national boundaries. It knows no social bounds. It knows no political systems and no cultural values. It hits us just as hard, and it is leveling the world right now. Facing the pandemic, it is not what happened 3 months ago that matters today. It is how we respond. What we need to do in Telangana is to break the cycle of human intervention and to break the cycle of human to human local community transmission. Extreme and aggressive, let me repeat, extreme and aggressive. These are the 2 words which should describe our response as one united state of Telangana. We need to come to terms with the new norms of living, the lockdown. Yes, the lockdown is the way to break the cycle of human intervention and also human to human spread of the disease. The lockdown is the answer, my friends. And our Chief Minister KCR is telling that to us repeatedly, desperately. May I just ask you a simple question here? Let's just take a break from this analysis right now. Let me just ask you a question. Our Chief Minister KCR, is he doing it for his own benefits? No. He's doing it for us. He's doing it for you. He's doing it for me. He's doing it for us, for the sake of Telangana. And we need to take his words quite seriously, ladies and gentlemen, and follow the norms of this lockdown extremely and aggressively. Those are the 2 key words. We need to be extreme, we need to be aggressive with this lockdown, and we need to do it now. Now is the time to follow this lockdown if we want to further curb the spread of the COVID-19 disease in our state. So the big question pops up here once again. Who is to blame for this crisis that we are going through right now? For whose mistakes are we paying the price? It all started in China. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, it's a made in China crisis. The coronavirus pandemic began in China. It peaked, then it subsided. And for the past 6 days, very few new cases are being reported in China. Temporary hospitals are being folded up. Emergency workers are now being sent home. So China is recovering, but the rest of the world is suffering and struggling. There are more than 200,000 cases worldwide now. The figure has doubled in 2 weeks. More than 8,000 people have died and more than 80,000 people have recovered. China, on the other hand, had almost half of the global cases, more than 81,000 and 3,200 deaths. Now, China's numbers are steadily falling, but elsewhere, the death toll is mounting. The disease is spreading, and China is to blame. This is a Chinese virus. Today, I'll give you 4 reasons why. First of all, China ignored the reports of the virus for weeks when it was first reported. After that, China targeted the whistleblowers. Next, China destroyed the test samples of the patients. And lastly, but not the least, China lied to the world about how serious the situation is. Had China been transparent about the coronavirus outbreak much earlier, the world, the entire world, would have had a clear head start in containing this epidemic. Well, that is the truth. The hashtag China lied, people died is trending right now on Twitter and Instagram. And there is much merit to it. And I'll tell you why. On this episode of Good Morning India, I will show you clear evidence of the China's cover-up. And this report, mind you, has been prepared after days of extensive research, and it is backed by several international publications of repute. This, my dear friends, is the story of the Chinese pandemic. Well, to start with, the first cases trickled into Wuhan's hospitals almost 3 months ago. This was in December 2019 last year. According to some reports, the first cases of the coronavirus emerged way back in November. Patients complained of dry coughs, high fevers and breathlessness. When lung scans were carried out, they showed something different. This was not your usual pneumonia. The patients continued to get more sick and more people became infected. The virus was spreading. But authorities looked the other way. They conveniently looked the other way. The director of Wuhan Central Hospital decided to carry out some tests, and her account was later published in China News Weekly. It's a Chinese magazine, by the way. The tests came out by the end of December. The results indicated a SARS-like coronavirus, a new disease that was rapidly spreading in Wuhan, left, right and center. Other doctors began reporting similar cases, and one of the doctors was Dr. Li Wenliang. He noticed the early reports. Dr. Li was an ophthalmologist at the Wuhan Central Hospital, and he was alarmed by what he saw. He was one of the first whistleblowers, and he warned his colleagues about the outbreak over WeChat. Now, let me tell you, WeChat is a social media platform very much like WhatsApp that we use here in India. Guess what happened? Guess what happened next? Guess who read his messages on WeChat? China's internet police. Yes, you heard me right. The internet police of China, which is everywhere. It is spread across the length and breadth of China. The censors are everywhere in China. It's a highly monitored and a highly guarded place. They read whatever you are posting on social media, be it Facebook, be it WeChat, be it Instagram, or any other social media for that matter. Dr. Li was immediately summoned by the police in Wuhan, and he was accused of spreading lies and rumors and spreading panic amongst the public. He was targeted for speaking the truth. Dr. Li died last month in February. He died from the same disease that he was trying to cure. He continued treating the coronavirus patients as the government continued to target him. By now, it was well established that there was a disease outbreak in Wuhan, something which had never been seen before, something which had never been heard about before. There were several patients and authorities had collected several samples. Researchers were carrying out their tests and Beijing had been informed. They knew what was going on. And that is when the cover-up starts. Now let me tell you a very important turn in this chain of events. On the 1st of January this year, an employee of a genomics company reportedly received a phone call from a Chinese official. This is a very important turn. This company was involved in the testing of the coronavirus samples. The Hubei Provincial Health Commission ordered them to stop the testing. Stop the testing, you heard it right. They were asked to destroy all the existing samples. You heard it right. Destroy the samples, bury the proof of an outbreak. 2 days later, on the 3rd of January, the National Health Commission ordered all the institutions to not publish any information. Labs were ordered to transfer any samples that they had or destroy them. But this outbreak was too big to hide, because 6 days later, China finally had to admit that it was dealing with the Wuhan coronavirus outbreak. So to sum it up, when the disease was detected, China refused to acknowledge it. When concerns were raised, China tried to silence the voices. When proof was provided, China destroyed it. Beijing knew about the outbreak, but it suppressed the facts and let the virus spread. When the countries around the world tried to impose travel restrictions or issue warnings, China lashed out at them. China said that they were spreading panic. When the Chinese citizens faced scrutiny abroad, across the world, along the different international airport screenings, China said that they were being made victims of racism. When the whole world demanded accountability, China said that the virus was an American import. For weeks, Chinese diplomats have been churning out a propaganda. They are pushing out conspiracy theories. They are trolling the critics and blaming the USA for this outbreak. The Wuhan coronavirus could have been stopped much earlier, but Beijing's cover-up unleashed a pandemic on the world. As horrific as it sounds, it is the truth. And when we talk about hope in these uncertain times, we must also learn some lessons from this crisis. Why did it have to go so grave? Why did it have to go so far? Whose mistakes is the world paying for? So how did this virus spread from China to the rest of the world? How the Wuhan virus crossed the borders, traveled to so many countries, creating new hotspots and leaving a trail of death behind? I can tell you one thing for sure, that the human carriers from China took this disease around the world, around the globe. Yes, indeed, travel restrictions were imposed, but they came too late. And there's only one reason for this delay: China's attempts to suppress the outbreak. China's resistance to global isolation measures, it slammed the countries, remember, as I told you, it slammed the countries in the initial phases of testing, who had imposed the first travel restrictions. China also tried to hide the truth, but here are some facts that challenge the Chinese propaganda. Number one, the Chinese city of Wuhan is the epicenter of its outbreak. You cannot dispute this fact. The virus most likely came from a live animal market somewhere in Wuhan. And number two, the first cases of this virus have been traced back to November last year, close to 4 months ago. China took absolutely forever to react. In fact, China acted only when it became absolutely impossible to hide the outbreak. It wasted 2 crucial months. And in those 2 months, the world could have been turned upside down. We could have absolutely brought an end to this pandemic in its infancy. However, now it's too late. The first admission came only in the month of January, and the virus was detected in November. So you can see the timeline right there. It's 2 months. And the first lockdown came weeks later on the 23rd of January. And I repeat that it came too late. By the 23rd of January, when the lockdown happened, 5 million people, allow that to sink in, 5 million people had already left the city of Wuhan. Let that sink in. Let's take just a couple of seconds to allow that to sink in. It's 5 million people, not 5,000. 5 million people possibly infected. The virus had been allowed to spread for several weeks by now. Millions of people who traveled in and out of Wuhan during this period became potential dangerous carriers. This happened during a major Chinese holiday, the Chinese Lunar New Year, a time when tens and thousands of millions of people travel home or go out on holidays. The Chinese New Year basically supercharged the spread of this virus, I believe. And this should give you a rough estimate. The world's biggest human migration, the world's biggest human migration that takes place during the Chinese Lunar New Year. According to one estimate, the Chinese tourists were expected to make 450 million trips this year, and this includes both domestic as well as international travel. And these trips were scheduled between 24th and 30th of January, bang in the middle of the coronavirus outbreak in Wuhan. No wonder it spread like wildfire. Now, it is difficult to put an exact number to determine how many Chinese carriers actually took the virus outside of China. But there are many patterns that come in handy here. And this one thing I can tell you, and it is an informed and a well-researched assessment. The Journal of the Travel Medicine published a paper in the month of January this year. It looked into the international spread of the Wuhan coronavirus. And just by commercial air travel, this study has named 20 top different cities frequented by the travelers from Wuhan during the Chinese Lunar New Year. That list includes some names. Now let me just read out those names to you quickly here. Taiwan, Japan, Thailand, South Korea, Singapore, Malaysia, Australia and Indonesia. And right now let me tell you, the word Indonesia might ring a bell in your mind. Indonesians, the group of 10 Indonesians who recently traveled to India and all the way to Karimnagar. Let me tell you, this was in the headlines just a few days ago. Many people have now tested positive for the coronavirus in Karimnagar, and the word Karimnagar has become a scare for the people in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh right now. The moment you hear the word Karimnagar, you can only think of one thing, and that's the COVID-19 disease or the novel coronavirus. Now, many people in Karimnagar are suffering from the COVID-19 disease right now, and that too because of the group of Indonesians who had traveled all the way from Indonesia into India just recently. And Indonesia also features in that list of top 20 cities which were visited by the Chinese tourists during the Chinese Lunar New Year. Does that ring a bell somewhere? Does that work as a link in between different points which we are trying to add right now? I'm sure it does. What is common between all these countries? All of these countries are now dealing with an outbreak of the coronavirus cases. The Chinese took them there. China took no lessons from its past. In the past also, let me remind you, China has been a major exporter of disease. The SARS outbreak in 2003, for example, had infected more than 8,000 people across 37 countries. Studies say that Chinese travelers took the SARS virus to 37 countries. That's 37 countries, friends. Allow that huge number to sink in. And now 17 years later, here in the bang of 2020, they are doing the exact same thing. They are repeating the same mistake with just another virus, a new virus. And we've given it a new name, the coronavirus. That's the only difference from the SARS virus in 2003 to the coronavirus in 2020. China took absolutely no measures to ensure its citizens do not export the deadly disease this time across the world. Here's another set of numbers that you should see. In the year 2002, tourists from China made around 17 million trips overseas. And by 2019, that figure rose to 180 million. Can you believe that? From 17 million all the way up to 180 million. Chinese tourists have flooded the world. Now, China says that it has controlled the coronavirus. And for the first time today, it has reported 0 new infections. I would take that claim with a pinch of salt. After all, it's hard to trust Chinese figures these days. But let's say that they're right. Let's say that they're right. So what is China doing? China is now imposing travel restrictions. It exported a virus, and now it does not want that virus to come back. The southern province of Guangdong, that shares a border with Hong Kong, has new rules for people traveling back from the coronavirus hotspots across the globe. They are putting all the travelers under a 14-day quarantine. Shanghai has adopted similar measures. China wants to insulate itself from the disease that it gave to the world. That is the current scenario of the world, keeping in mind China, the place that this novel coronavirus originated from. And in calling out China, one must not forget the crisis which Italy is facing right now. 3,405 casualties, it's a big number. 3,400 casualties almost. It has become the worst hit country after China. And yet Italy is doing all that it can to become a model nation for every nation which is threatened by the same invisible enemy. But what it's not doing is this. Italy is not asking questions from China. Is it paying the price of an open society? Whose war is it fighting? And who gets to decide what Italy should be doing right now? Definitely not China, and yet the Chinese regime's audacity is astounding. Beijing is trying to paint itself as a good supporter by deflecting criticism over its handling of the outbreak. Look at some of the headlines that we've pulled out for you. Let's take, for instance, this new headline which just sprung up in the media. The Chinese state media is preaching Italy about epidemic control here. That is rich coming from China. Let me quote that first headline for you. Italy learns little from China's epidemic control and pays the price. I'm not sure if there is much to learn from China here on handling a crisis, but Italy indeed is paying the price of China's negligence. But look at how Beijing is now trying to rewrite the whole narrative. Listen to this one now. This one is quite interesting. The second headline right here. China to provide urgent medical supplies to Italy amid the fight against COVID-19. Well, these days, China will only tell you how it is providing urgent medical help to Italy and in the process cry foul over the criticism that it itself is facing. There's another headline which I should quote for you. Praise of Italy's measures, a sharp contrast to criticism of China. This article further goes on to claim how this is an example of the Western media's double standards. Well, if you don't like the Western media, allow your neighbors to tell you why the criticism is not unwarranted. The point which we are trying to make is this. China has no right to preach Italy what it should be doing right now. A large number of Italian government houses had initially outsourced their manufacturing to Chinese labor, especially from Wuhan. Italy also has direct flights from Wuhan. The Italian government may have been too late in waking up to this threat, although Italy was one of the first countries in Europe to block the flights from China, but it may have been too late. China knew how rapidly the virus was spreading all across the globe, and yet it allowed thousands of workers from Wuhan to travel to Italy between December and January. And now it is trying to shower a struggling Italy with aid as part of diplomatic charm offensive. Beijing is sending medical supplies and millions of masks to Italy on a daily basis. It is offering low-interest loans and teams of medical experts. By the way, let me tell you that 2 teams of medical experts are currently operating in Italy all the way from China. For China, this may be a noble gesture. That's what they're trying to sell it as. But the world is not such a fool. The world sees it as damage control. China must first acknowledge the reality of the virus's origin. China must acknowledge that the virus originated from China. The world still does not have a foolproof cure for it. So the first thing which China can do is admit that there is a problem and also admit that the problem comes from China and nowhere else. This virus is not an American import. This virus was exported to the rest of the world by China, and it's high time that China admits it. Posing as a savior of other countries who were quite frankly less prepared than China will do very little to swing public opinion in China's favor, because the public is not a fool. And speaking of easing people's fears in these incredibly stressful and uncertain times of the coronavirus pandemic, I have some practical tips for all of you for managing your anxiety in this ongoing global health crisis. At a time when we are all bombarded with scary news about the coronavirus, what with the ever-rising numbers of positive coronavirus cases in Telangana, it is hard not to be scared and anxious. So how do you deal with this anxiety? Here are some practical tips to deal with your anxiety right now. Something which you can follow in the comfort of your own homes without stepping out and respecting the Telangana lockdown at the same time. Number 1, get some sleep. It works big time to boost your immunity, which is your first and the most effective line of defense against this coronavirus. And by getting enough sleep, I mean try to get at least 6 to 7 hours of sound sleep for yourself every day. And that is important. And speaking of immunity, get some lemon and ginger into your body. Remember I told you that I was going to talk about your cup of chai a bit later on my show. So the time has come to talk about your chai. So ginger, friends, ginger, let me tell you, is a natural anti-inflammatory agent, and it is also a great immunity booster. So add that zing of ginger to your morning cup of chai every day. That is what I wanted to tell you about your chai. So if you are in the habit of drinking just flat chai without any ginger, change that habit. Add some ginger to it, add some cinnamon to it. These are the natural ingredients which you can find very comfortably and just easily in your kitchen. Just go into your kitchen and I'm sure you will have some ginger and cinnamon right there in your kitchen. Add these simple ingredients to your chai every day because number one, they are anti-inflammatory by nature. Number two, they boost your immunity naturally. So what else do you want? Add that ginger to your morning cup of chai and watch your immunity improve day by day. With a stronger immunity, you can ensure that you will not contract the coronavirus, and if at all you do in the first place, chances are you will never even find out because your body's immune system, your body's internal defense mechanism will be so strong that it will be able to beat the coronavirus itself. It will be able to tackle and defeat the coronavirus by itself without the need of any external medication or drug. Number three, the number three thing that you can do for yourself right now is move. Yes, I can't emphasize enough the importance of exercise. Physical movement is necessary right now. Get some exercise into your body. Even if it is just a matter of a 20-minute walk, go outside, go out to some park, some community park or the KBR park. Get some jogging, get some walking, have a brisk walk, but get at least 20 to 30 minutes of gentle exercise for yourself every day because just like good sound sleep, exercise also works wonders for your immunity. If you are feeling isolated or down or depressed, sometimes it happens, we might end up feeling a little low mentally, emotionally, especially during these tough, uncertain times. It's always a good idea, it's always a great idea, in fact, to call your best friend, your spouse, your parents, or anybody for that matter who you can trust. Stay informed about the latest coronavirus updates and the medical developments, and I'm here to help you with that on behalf of CVR English. But don't obsess, don't ruminate, and don't overthink, as overthinking is not a solution to this problem. So give your mind a break. In fact, it will only weaken your immune system further. Overthinking I'm talking about, all the thoughts which are running in your mind right now, just give them a break. Remember to keep yourself up to date with all the information about the coronavirus, but at the same time, there is a very thin line between being updated and ruminating and overthinking. So make sure that you are thinking about the coronavirus, but not thinking quite so much, because overthinking will lead to worry, which will lead to anxiety, and anxiety is a natural killer of your immunity. And right now, what you want is a strong immune system, like I mentioned earlier. So stay updated with CVR English, stay updated with me on behalf of CVR English, but don't overthink. And finally, meditation and yoga have also been shown to help. So let's follow this advice coming straight from the horse's mouth, because our Prime Minister Narendra Modi also keeps emphasizing the importance of yoga and meditation from time to time. Let's just pick these cues from our very own Prime Minister, shall we? And stay alert and stay safe. On that precautionary note, my friends, it's time for me to now say bye-bye to all of you, but only until tomorrow, when we will catch up once again at the CVR English studio right here, live from Jubilee Hills, with the latest dose of the hottest coronavirus headlines from across Telangana and across the world. Until then, on behalf of CVR English, this is your host, Anukriti Govind Sharma signing off. Take care, and once again have a very happy but at the same time a very safe good morning.